So this session we'll talk about Nagarjuna's letter to a friend. Which is a very nice text, kind of covers the whole path in not very many verses. So I will try, because my habit is I will spend a few hours on one verse. I will try not to do this because we started this teaching in 2018 and 2019. But I think most of the people here probably weren't at that teaching, so I thought I would start over, okay? And, and then we'll see through the years how many times I have to start over and how many times we continue, okay? Okay, and then a short period of meditation. And then take a minute and generate your motivation. It's good to practice generating it yourself. So Nagarjuna lived around the 2nd century AD. We don't know exactly when. The Tibetans say he lived 600 years, but there is some question about that. And he is very, very well known for his Madhyamaka teachings. Those are the teachings on the nature of reality. And he really started a new movement in terms of how to interpret the Buddhist teachings on the nature of reality. But in this text, he really goes through the whole path, just a small number of verses. And we can kind of assume if he's talking to this king, he seems to know the king quite well. He is not flattering the king at all during this poem. He's just kind of teaching him and telling him how it is. And the layout of the poem is very interesting because usually when we hear the teachings, we start with precious human life, impermanence and death, the disadvantages of cyclic existence, and karma. And then from there go on to bodhicitta and wisdom and so on. In this poem, he starts out, and fairly quickly gets into a brief overview of the 6 perfections, the practices of the bodhisattvas, which usually comes at the end, towards the end of the teachings. And he goes through the first 4 very quickly. Concentration, he takes a while to go with, but in talking about concentration, he talks a lot about the disadvantages of distraction and all the worldly things that distract us, which is heralding back to the 8 worldly concerns and things that we usually hear about at the beginning. Then when he gets to the 6th perfection, that of wisdom, then he has a little bit about the nature of reality, but then he goes back to more what to practice and what to abandon on the path, and being wise in that way. And so at that point, he talks about precious human life, impermanence and death, karma, and then the different realms, and talks a lot about, how to give up. Well, we usually want a good rebirth in samsara, but how to even give up wanting that and aspire for liberation, and then how to aspire for full awakening. So the topics are all in there, but the arrangement of the topics is something quite different, not what we're used to. And I think that can be very good, because what it does is it expands how we think of the different topics. Instead of getting rigid, 1, 2, 3, 4, this order it's got to be, we learn to start with something that's often more advanced, then go to something that is usually at the beginning, and it helps us see connections between the topics that we may not have seen before. And I think that's really valuable. Okay, so we'll start at the beginning of the text. And they always start with the title, and then there's a promise to compose and an homage. So the title is in Sanskrit Shrilekha, which means friendly letter. Okay, so the king, he's writing a friendly letter to his friend the king. Okay, and then then there's a translator's homage, which is very common in Tibetan. They always do this, and who they pay homage to depends upon how they classify this text. If it's a Vinaya text, they pay homage to the Buddha, to the omniscient one, because the Vinaya, the monastic discipline, has a lot to do with karma, and that's something that only the Buddha understands completely. When so that the Vinaya has more to do with ethical conduct. When it's a text that has more to do with concentration, then they pay homage to. Why am I blacking out about that right now? They pay homage to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Okay, and then that's the third. It's coordinated with the 3 higher trainings and the 3 baskets of the Buddhist teachings. So the first basket is Vinaya, coordinating with ethical conduct. Okay, and the prostration is to the omniscient one. The second one is the Sutra basket. That's coordinated with paying homage with the higher training and concentration. And to identify that basket, the translator's homage is to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And then the third basket of teachings is the Abbey Dharma. And that is coordinated with wisdom, and homage is paid to Manjushri, who is the Buddha, or sometimes they call it the Bodhisattva of wisdom. So here, the translator is homage, it pays homage to the gentle and glorious youth, Manjughosha. Okay, so, gentle, glorious. His speech is immaculate like that, and teaches the path. And he's portrayed as young. Okay, they have really something about being 16 years old. That seems to be the optimum age for getting praised. I don't know why, but so he's called the youth. Okay, then there's a commitment to compose the text. That's the next verse. That reads, listen now to these few lines of noble song that I've composed for those with many virtues fit for good, to help them yearn for merit springing from the sacred words of he who's gone to bliss. So he who's gone to bliss, the Sugata, refers to the Buddha. And so it's a few lines, that he's saying that he's composing for people who have a virtuous aspiration, who are longing to create merit, to generate the path in their mind. So this is the commitment to compose the text. And this is standard practice also in all the treatises and commentaries that come out of India and also out of Tibet. Okay. So his purpose in composing it is for himself and others, to create merit, but not just accumulate merit, to really generate the understanding of these words in the mind stream. Okay. Then, as part of that prologue, there's two verses. One is encouraging us towards humility with regard to the words of the poem, and then the next verse, humility with regard to the meaning. So these are all part of the prologue, the preparation to the actual text. So verse 2 is humility with regard to the words. So it reads, the wise will always honor and bow down to Buddha statues, though they're made of wood. So too, although these lines of mine be poor, do not feel scorn. They teach the holy way. Okay, so people who really respect the Buddha, not the Buddha as so much as a person, but the qualities that the Buddha has, the afflictions and defilements that he has abandoned, all the excellent qualities that he's spent eons developing. Okay, so people admire those, and because of the qualities, admire the Buddha and show respect to the Buddha. Showing respect is not a particularly American attribute. Okay, but it's something that is very much needed and important on the spiritual path, because if we cannot be humble enough to show respect to those with good qualities, how will we value those qualities enough to try and generate them in our own mind stream? Okay, if we're always picking for faults and putting somebody down and saying this is inadequate and that's, stupid and da-da-da-da-da, then we can't, the conclusion is, I'm great, and everything else is inferior. And as long as we have that kind of pride in our mind, then our mind is shut. We can't learn anything from anybody. So it's very important. That's why we bow at the beginning of the teachings. That's why we pay homage at the beginning of the teachings. That's why when we do this, we're offering the universe and everything beautiful in it as a request to receive the Buddha's teachings. So it's all expressions on our part that affect our mind and help us to see the value of the Buddha Dharma and the teachings so that we take them seriously. Okay, so the recitations are not meant to please the Buddha. Okay, when you're a Buddha, you do not need somebody singing your praises. We love when people sing our praises, okay? And whether they're true or not, we don't care as long as they sound good. Yeah? But Buddhists don't need that kind of ego boost like we do. And they don't have the same lack of self-confidence and self-doubt and guilt and so on that we do, which is why they're Buddhists, because they've been able to overcome those kind of afflictive mental states in their own mind streams. Okay, so here it's saying the wise people who respect the Dharma and therefore respect the Buddha, they will bow down to statues, even though the statues are made of wood and stone. Okay, so statues aren't even real people to pay respect to, but they represent the Buddha's qualities. And because they help us remember those, then we pay homage. And it doesn't matter the material the statues are made out of. Okay, ordinary people, of course, like really beautiful statues and expensive ones to show off to their friends. But those people don't necessarily value the Dharma. So, wood statues sometimes are very simple. Sometimes they're like the Kuan Yin in the back, they're quite gorgeous. Yeah, stone statues too. Sometimes simple, sometimes really beautiful. But here it's saying, without regard for the material it's made out of, wise people will respect the qualities and bow to the statues. And then Nagarjuna says, so too, these lines of mine may be poor. In other words, I'm not necessarily very good at writing, and, my grammar may not be fantastic, and the way the poem is put together may not be so good. But still, have respect, don't scorn it, because the subject matter is something really important and something that you need. Yeah. So they always say, don't pay so much attention to the words of the scripture, focus on the meaning. And so then the next verse is humility with regard to the meaning, because maybe we've overcome our arrogance regarding the words, because we read it and think, oh, I could write this better. My poetry is better. My grammar is better. I have a better command of the language and can think of, more enticing, magnificent words. But we've overcome that, okay, and lowered ourselves in that respect. Then verse 3, humility with regard to the meaning, says, while you have surely learned and understood the mighty Buddha's many lovely words, is it not so that something made of chalk by moonlight lit shines gleaming whiter still? So in ancient India, they would put chalk on the outside of the building, and that was making the building beautiful. Okay, and then in the moonlight, when the moonlight hit the white chalk, it even made it look more beautiful. Okay, so here he's saying, so reader, you may be learned and you may have understood the Buddha's teachings before, and you may have heard them many, many, many times, but hearing them once more, contemplating them again, will make it go deeper in your mind and make them shine brighter in your own mind. Okay. And so this is important because sometimes we feel, oh, well, I've heard that teaching before, so I don't need to listen to it. And when you are with the Tibetan community, when His Holiness Dalai Lama teaches, even if he's teaching a beginning text, all the Geshis and the very learned people and good practitioners show up to listen. They don't say, well, that's a beginning text, and I've even taught it myself 15 times, so why do I need to listen to it again? No, they don't think like that, because each time you hear something, it goes in at a deeper level and you understand it in a deeper way. Okay. And that's the value of doing purification practices and practices to accumulate merit, is that those things really purify and enrich our mind, so that when you listen to a teaching, you hear something new. Yeah. So some years ago, somebody sent me a transcript of one of the teachings that my teacher at the very beginning taught us, So I started in 1975. So you listen to teachings and, wow, this is fantastic, and I understand, na. And then, 20, 30 years later, you read the transcripts or listen to the tapes of the same teaching, and then you go, oh, is that what they were talking about? And, it means something totally different to you, because your mind is clearer and your mind is more receptive. And, the same words really have a lot of meaning that they didn't have before. Mm-hmm. Okay, so don't think, well, I've heard it before, so I know it already, and I don't need to listen, and blah, blah. Okay, so that's kind of the introductory part. Now he's going to get into the main text. And the first thing he talks about, the heading is Faith as a Support on the Path to the Higher Realms and Lasting Happiness. Okay. So here he's talking about 6 things to keep in mind while we listen to the teachings. And so these 6 things help us have faith, and it's not blind faith, it's faith that comes from understanding. And when you look at these 6 things, these are things that, like I said, I could talk, a long time on each one of them. But, as you listen to more teachings, as you think about them, sometimes you hear one word and then in your mind the whole meaning comes. But I will try not to spend a long time on these, so that we will get at least where we ended in the last 2 years. Okay, so here talking about the 6 things to keep in mind. So verse 4 says 6 things there are, the Buddhas have explained, and all their virtues you must keep in mind. So those 6, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, bounteous acts, which refers to generosity, and moral laws, ethical conduct, and gods. Here it's talking about desire realm gods. Okay? So each one recall. So look at the virtues of each of these 6. Okay, so talking about the Buddha, again, you could go on and on and on forever. But here the Buddha is the awakened one who has eliminated all defilements to be eliminated from their mind stream, cultivated all the good qualities to be cultivated, and so thus has the full wisdom, the full compassion, and the full ability or skillful means to be able to best benefit sentient beings. Okay, and so that's, remembering the Buddha as our teacher. Yeah, because the Buddha, all the teachings go back to the Buddha. The Buddha is our teacher. And then the second one is the Dharma, which is the Buddha's teachings, which have been spoken in a very excellent manner, really explaining the whole path from beginning to end. And when we say the Dharma, there's different meanings of the word Dharma. And even here in the sense of our object of refuge, the Dharma, there's different meanings. So the real meaning of the word Dharma is the true cessation and the true path, the last two of the four truths. Yeah, because when we have actualized those in our mind stream, then, we have become the object of refuge. And so there is no more suffering or dukkha, unsatisfactory experiences, afflicting us, and no more cause of them either. Okay, so that's the wisdom that is capable of eliminating all those things is the true path. And then the true cessation is the having eliminated the absence, total absence, so that they can never come again of these various defilements. So when we can actualize that in our own mind stream, then we are completely free. Okay, so that's why that's said to be the ultimate refuge. Yeah. The teachings, which the word Dharma often refers to, are the scriptures that describe how to practice, what to abandon, how to abandon it. Okay, so the teachings are equally as important. Okay, because of the Buddha has the realization of the Dharma in his mental continuum. That is why he's called the Buddha. Okay, the awakened one. And then the third one is the Sangha. And here Sangha refers to those who have realized the nature of reality directly with their own experience. So we start out learning about the nature of reality. That's from, learning, hearing, reading, studying. Then we think about what we've heard, we discuss it with others, we debate it. That's another level of understanding. And then finally, we really meditate on it in a very deep way. And after a substantial period of time meditating, first we gain an inferential realization of the nature of reality, followed by actual direct perception of it. Okay. And so the Sangha that is being talked about here are those people, individuals who have realized the nature of reality directly in their own experience. Yeah. The Sangha, the words also can refer to a monastic community of 4 or more fully ordained people. In America, they use the word Sangha in ways that are very strange to Asians. Here, it's like everybody who goes to a Buddhist center becomes Sangha. And then that becomes actually quite confusing because you hear, take refuge in the Sangha, and you say, my spiritual refuge is in these people, but, some of them are baby beginners. They go to teachings and then they go to the bar and then they sleep around with each other. And these are the people who are supposed to be my examples of how to practice. So no, that's why in Asia they don't use the Sangha to refer to anybody who shows up at a Buddhist center. Yeah, it's referred to a Sangha community. So it's not even one monastic. It has to be 4 or more fully ordained people. Okay, because 4 or more are allowed then by the Vinaya to do certain Vinaya rites. And the existence of a community like that is historically has been very, very important for the existence of the Dharma in a place. Yeah, because if you have a community, then, as a regular person with a family, there's a place where you can go where, people are practicing. Yeah. And you know that there's people who are practicing, and that is inspiring for you. And the Sangha community, I think, also acts as the conscience of society, because we try to live a simple life. And so that poses a question to the rest of society of, do you really need everything you think you need? Okay. So you just look, like none of us are going to make it on the cover of Vogue. And people are they're like, why do you shave your head? I love it when I go into schools to give talks, especially high school, when they're really concerned with how they look, Remember high school? And, roll your eyeballs. But, I'm so concerned about what other people think of me based on how I look. And then, somebody like us, we walk into a classroom and, here we are, no makeup, no pierced ears, no pierced tongue, no tattoos, except for her, and one more in the back. Yeah, do you have tattoos? Oh, I haven't seen them. True confessions. Yeah, but the rest of us, anybody else have tattoos I don't know about? You have a tattoo? Oh my goodness. Wow, all the younger ones have tattoos. Yeah, you have a tattoo. Oh, look at that. It looks like dirt. Yeah. Okay, but our generation, tattoos were associated with the Hells Angels and with, the rough, tough guys. Now they're just like popular, but, back in the old days, with the dinosaurs, you didn't want to have a tattoo. Well, some people did, but most of us didn't. Okay, so, so those are the three objects of refuge. And, we try and live a simple life. I remember often when I go into classrooms, they'll say, could you tell us about what you wear? And it reminds me of my niece when she was 6 years old, age 6. This is how early it gets put into their minds. She said, why do you wear the same clothes every day? As if that were some kind of mortal sin, to wear the same clothes every day. You're supposed to wear something different. You're supposed to be fashionable. And we wear the same clothes every day. And we, our hair is like this, and, no fancy adornments. We're not allowed to wear perfumes or ornaments or different kinds of things. And for the young people, they're just like, wow, how do you live? But this is the question that we pose to society. Do you really need all this stuff? Do you need a fancy house? Do you need a whatever it is? Okay. Then the other three things, that act as a support for our faith: generosity, ethical conduct, and then the celestial beings. So the first one that he talks about is the celestial beings. Okay, so that is verse 5. Yeah. So with body, speech, and mind always rely on wholesome deeds, the tenfold virtuous path, avoiding liquor at all costs, thus find true joy to lead a life of virtuous deeds. So this is talking about the gods in the desire realm we talk about different realms of existence. So these gods are a higher level than human beings in that they have much greater happiness and very fewer problems than we do. Yeah. And how did they get rebirths like that? Yeah. They kept very good ethical conduct. So with our body, speech, and mind, these are the three doors or gateways through which we act. They relied on wholesome deeds and on the 10 virtuous paths. So this morning we talked about the 5 precepts. Here's another complementary list of actions that the Buddha saw through his supernormal powers, that when sentient beings did this, the full outcome of them would be an unfortunate rebirth or many difficult situations in our next life, or bad habits in our next life, defects in the environment, and so forth. So just to go through these 10, there's 10 non-virtues to abandon, and then 10 virtues to practice. So we talked about killing, taking what's not freely offered, unkind and unwise sexual contact. Those are in the morning. We talked about those. Those are the 3 actions done physically. Yeah. And then there's 4 done verbally. We talked about lying. The other 3, creating disharmony with our speech. Yeah. So this one we love to do. Yeah. Talk bad about people behind their back so that we create division between people, and then thinking that somehow that will benefit us, because by putting other people down, so we sit and talk. The person we're talking about isn't there, but we sit and talk about that person with a group of friends. Oh, look what they did, and they did this, and they did that. And can you imagine? Oh, it's terrible. And the conclusion of that whole discussion is we are the wonderful people, because those people are so awful. Okay, so this is for how you form cliques in workplaces. Yeah, it's really, creating disharmony with our speech is not good. Then the third speech one is harsh speech. So this is talking to somebody, insulting them, ridiculing them, calling them names, teasing them in a very nasty kind of way, yelling, screaming, pointing out their faults. I'm sure everybody here is familiar with this kind of behavior. Okay? So, and I don't think I need to say why it's something non-virtuous. And then the fourth speech one is called idle talk. And this is how we actually spend a great deal of our time. Just talking blah, 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 blah. Okay? So, did you hear about the latest basketball game, or is it football game at Gonzaga University? And how they scored. Now, I know some people think this is incredibly important, but from a Buddhist viewpoint, this is considered idle talk. Okay. Talking about sales. Yeah. They're selling this fantastic car. All the things that you don't need that are advertised and, that you need to get, and talking about sales and where you can go out and get them. And talking, of course, about the neighbors and, other people we know, and just, idle talk. Yeah. So that doesn't mean that we always have to have deep, meaningful discussions with people, but we just need to avoid the kind of talk that is motivated by just the wish to pass the time, or to make ourselves look clever. We can tell good stories. Yeah, maybe we exaggerate things a little bit, but that's okay. It makes for a better story. And, people like us. We know how to make small talk. Okay, so those are the 4 non-virtues of speech. Then there's 3 mental ones. So the first one, covetousness, which we talked about last night. Second one is malice, which we also talked about last night. And the third one is wrong views, holding views in which about important spiritual topics where we negate what does exist. Okay, so maybe we say our actions have no effect, so karma, the law of karma and its effects doesn't exist. Sentient beings are inherently selfish because of our limbic system, and so trying to attain full awakening is useless because we can never overcome our self-centeredness. These kind of wrong views. So those are the 10 negative ones, the ones we want to practice. So first of all, just abandoning and stopping ourselves from the 10 negative ones are positive or constructive actions. Okay, so there you are, given the opportunity, to really lay into somebody and tell them what you think and take out your laundry list that, of everything they've done wrong for the last 10 years. You know how when you fight with somebody, we do that? Yeah, there's some small thing that starts it. And then you've had your whole list that you've been collecting since the last big blow up. And your whole list is now everything they've done between then and now, that we will not forget. We have stored it in our memory, and we bring it out when we have a big fight to really emphasize to the other person how wrong they are, how mean they are, how terrible they are. Okay. So just abandoning that when you're like opening your mouth about ready to dump it on someone, that is a virtuous action. Okay. So just abandoning the non-virtues. Then, in addition, virtuous actions are doing the opposite. So instead of killing, protecting life, instead of taking what hasn't been given to us, protecting others' property, instead of unwise and unkind sexual behavior, using sexuality wisely and kindly, and instead of lying, speaking truthfully, and so on, up all 10, just doing the opposite. Those are the virtuous actions. And then here's Nagarjuna. So I told you it wasn't me this morning talking about intoxicants. He says, avoiding liquor, which means all the intoxicants and misuse of prescribed medicine. Avoiding liquor at all costs. Why at all costs? Because when you're intoxicated, you do dumb things. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I've had enough experience before I became a nun of doing really dumb things while intoxicated. Anybody else done dumb things while intoxicated? Yeah. So avoiding liquor at all costs, thus find true joy to lead a life of virtuous deeds. So it's by leading a life of virtuous deeds as a human being that some beings get born as these gods, the desire realm gods. So it's remembering their virtuous cause that enabled them to have that rebirth. That is what remembering the gods means. Okay. Then so that was the fourth thing to keep in mind. The fifth one is generosity. So that's verse 6. And it reads, possessions are ephemeral and essenceless. Know this and give them generously. to monastics, to Brahmins, to the poor, and to your friends. Beyond, there is no greater friend than gift. Okay, so here, it's important. Possessions are ephemeral and essenceless. And that's really true. I mean, we regard possessions as the be-all and end-all. And if you have really cool things, and a lot of them, that means you're successful. Yeah, that's the society's standard of success, isn't it? Having lots of stuff and really cool stuff and the most modern stuff. But all of that is quite ephemeral. Yeah, you get something great and then it breaks and it goes out of style and your neighbor gets something even better the next day. Yeah, so these things are totally unreliable. Yeah, one of my teachers had, he was very good for short, pithy quotes. One was, come, come, go, go. And that tells you for material things and money, come, come, and go, go. Yeah, it's nothing that you hang on to. It does not indicate your success as a human being. It does not bring ultimate happiness. Okay. So don't break throw your whole life away chasing these things that are ephemeral and also that lack essence. I mean, we accumulate all this stuff, and what essence is there to it? What meaning is there to it? Yeah, it's quite interesting when you think, this could be a topic for another discussion group, about, material possessions and money. And what does money indicate to us? Yeah, for some people, it indicates success. Yeah, that's how society judges you as successful. For some people, money indicates love because you give them money in the hopes that they will love you back or to express your love towards them. For some people, money indicates freedom. When I have money, I can travel, I can do what I want. I'm not bound to a job. Okay. There's many different things that money can symbolize. Power. Yeah. I have money, so I can, after Citizens United, control the elections. I have power by, who I give my money to, and that will help to determine who has political power. So money can mean lots of different things, but doesn't really have any kind of essence because when you die, your money doesn't come with you. Yeah, so you work really hard to get money, and when you die, the money all stays here. And what goes on with us is the actions, the karma we've created to procure the money and protect the money. But the money is here. And anyway, money is so weird. Yeah. Money is just scribbles on a piece of paper. We used to have a gold standard. Then we used to have cash. So when you had money, there was something put in your hand. Now you can transfer, thousands, millions of dollars from one account to the next account without touching anything. Yeah, it's so weird. You just click a few things and then, so much money you give to somebody else, but you never had that money to start with because there was nothing in your hands to start with. There was just a number on a computer screen. And it's not the first number that matters. It's the number of zeros after that are important. Yeah. You can have a 9 as the first number, but if you have a 0 as the second number and no further numbers, $90, not so good. You can have a 1 as your first number and 6 or 7 zeros after that. And then you're rich, even depending on the number of zeros you get. It indicates your wealth. But you actually have nothing in your hand. Yeah. I find this so strange. And you go to buy something, yeah, and you have a little piece of plastic, a piece of plastic that's that big. You give somebody a piece of plastic and they let you drive a car away. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, and then they give you your piece of plastic back. So you don't even lose something and you got a car and the whole deal of it. Yeah, until you get a piece of paper at the end of the month. And those squiggles indicate that, you better be careful, and do something to get more zeros. Don't you think that's strange? I think money is so strange. Yeah. And what does it mean? And when you die, it doesn't come with. In some Asian countries where they practice ancestor worship, when you die, they burn money, but not real money, not the real bills. You first buy, it's called paper money, as if our usual bills weren't just paper money. But this is paper money that you buy, and it's from the Bank of Hell. Okay, not the Bank of the US, not the Bank of Russia. It's the Bank of Hell, because you assume that as much as you love your relatives, maybe they were born in hell. So you buy money from the Bank of Hell and you burn it, because that's how you do bank transfers when you do, ancestor worship. Yeah, you don't have to click anything. You just burn it. And then the idea is they get the money. Yeah, so that's how you show care and love and respect for your dead ancestors. I don't know what the exchange rate is between regular money and paper money. Okay? Venerable Damcha, do you know? No? Okay, anybody else know? Yeah? So I don't know what the exchange rate is, but it must be good. I mean, it must be that you get more for the, $1, you get more than $1 from the Bank of Hell. Otherwise, you wouldn't buy Bank of Hell notes. Okay. So it's interesting to really stop and think, what does money mean to us in our life? Yeah, sometimes it means reputation. Yeah, or it means approval in your family. If you make more money, then your parents approve of you. If you make less money than a sibling, parents aren't so happy. Yeah, my parents, they didn't know what in the world to do with me. Yeah, anyway. So what he's saying here is don't be attached to your money and possessions, because come, go, and they don't really bring ultimate happiness and satisfaction to start with. Okay, so if you want to really use your money and invest it in a way that will bring good returns, okay, you invest it by being generous, and having a generous heart that really wants to give to others, that takes delight in giving, and then that generous heart creates incredible merit, which is very useful to us in fertilizing and enriching our mind so that when we study and meditate, the teachings have a strong effect on our mind. In his other book, when Nagarjuna wrote Precious Garland, which is also another letter to a king that was much longer than this one. That one was 500 verses, incredible text, marvelous text. Anyway, in that one, he spent a good number of verses telling the king that while he had his whole treasure house filled with riches and jewels and things, that he should use them and give them to the poor, to monastics, to the sick. He should help society with this stuff instead of just keeping it all in his treasury. Because Nagarjuna told him, when you get sick and you're coming to death, all your ministers are going to take the money and use it for what they want, or they'll use it to brown nose the next king. Yeah. In our lives, what happens, is you save your money and then you die and your relatives fight over it. Yeah. And you think, like I thought, that's not going to happen in my family. We're not going to fight over the money. Was I surprised what happened? Yeah. So it's, it's really interesting. So you really understand why Nagarjuna said, give it away, because don't use it so that it becomes a source of conflict or a source of, really abusing power and wealth. Use it to benefit others. So who do you benefit? The monastic community, Dharma practitioners. So in Precious Garland, he encouraged the king to build temples, to build monasteries, to support monastics in their spiritual endeavors, because this will benefit the whole society. And then he encouraged to give to the poor and to give to the sick. And undoubtedly, those people need money. They need finances, for medicine or just even to get a house. Now, those towers crashed in Florida, and in Canada, this one village with maybe 1,000 people in it, very small village, the whole thing burned down like this. Yeah, they didn't even have time. The fire came in, swept through and burned and left in a very short period of time, and they didn't have time to get anything together. They were lucky if they even got out. And now those people have no place to live. Yeah. So, and then you see the monsoons, the effect of the monsoons in India, in Bangladesh. Yeah. Where their crops are washed away every year with the monsoons. It's a disaster. Yeah. So, and even in the south of this country with the hurricanes now, I wish they would send some of their excess water up here. That's maybe the infrastructure that we should have, is water pipes going from Louisiana to Washington. Yeah. Okay, but, use what we have to help other people. We got $2,000 this year in stimulus. Yeah, if you need it, use it. If you don't need it, give it to charities, so that other people who need it benefit. And then also, we should take care of the people who have been kind to us. So starting with our parents, to respect them, to support them when they need money and when we're able to do that, and other people who have been kind to us, to share our wealth with them as well. Okay? So, yeah. And then with everybody else too. Okay? And then this is something. And it says, beyond there is no greater friend than a gift. A gift, giving a gift helps us. It doesn't just, the gift doesn't just help the person we give it to. The giving helps us. How does it help us? First of all, when we have a very open mind and we want to give, our heart feels so free. Yeah. And when we think of somebody else getting what we're giving and being happy about it, again, we feel so happy at being able to make other people happy. So the giving itself becomes something really wonderful, just in this life. In addition, it creates good karma. It creates the cause for us to be born in a place that is wealthy. Yeah. I mean, why are we born in this country instead of in, some very poor country? It's because, we created virtue through generosity in a past life. Yeah. So it brings good things to us in our future lives, and it also enriches and enhances the mind so that we can gain the realization. And it really is very freeing, very liberating when we can give something. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to tell my my cashmere sweater story for those of you who have heard it before, but there's some people who haven't. So my cashmere sweater story. When you are a monastic, it can sometimes be very difficult to find clothes that, at least in the Tibetan tradition, are maroon. Okay, so this was before I knew Tracy, who gets every maroon thing she sees and brings it to the Abbey. So I didn't know Tracy at that time. So one person, when I was in Japan, they gave me a maroon cashmere sweater. So it wasn't just that it was maroon, because that's hard to come by, but it was cashmere. And cashmere is so soft, and it's so nice and warm and comfortable. And I loved that maroon cashmere sweater. So in the early 90s, I was teaching in Eastern Europe and some of the former Soviet republics. So one place we were going to give talks, we were going to Donetsk, which now is, oh my goodness, that's where a lot of the battle, the Russians are sending forces trying to, defeat Ukraine. It's a mess there. But at that time, it was peaceful. And we were going to Donetsk, to a Dharma center there. And on the way there, we were passing through Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. And when we got to Kiev, we were just spending the day there. I was traveling with a translator. And we had nothing to do the whole day. We arrived in the morning. The train was leaving in the evening to Donetsk. So he said, I have a friend named Sasha. Let me call her and we'll visit her for the day, and then we'll go to the train station in the evening. So he called, and Sasha said, come on over. Sasha was, I don't know, like early 20s, mid-20s, something like that. Very nice young woman. And we were her guests on short notice, okay? So she took out the very special food. Yeah. Certain goodies that she had that she saved for special occasions. Me, the very special food I keep for myself, and I give the other common food to guests. Okay. But the good stuff I keep. Sasha, it was the opposite. Okay. So she brought out her goodies. And she was clearly not very rich because we mostly had potatoes and cabbage that day. Sasha was about my size. Yeah, we spent the whole day with her. It was really nice. And then in the evening, she accompanied us to the train station. So we were on the trolley, going across Kiev to the train station. And I remember we were standing up and hanging onto the poles that you hold on to. Yeah. And the idea came in my mind, why don't you give your maroon cashmere sweater to Sasha? And instantly, the next idea was, no. And then proceeded an internal civil war, the whole distance to the train station. Sasha will be really happy if you give her your sweater. She doesn't have very much money. No, you need the sweater. It's coming summertime. I can get another sweater. No, you need this sweater. This sweater is good. No, really, try and, you should give it. Listen, remember your teachers. Remember Geshe Nawan Dargi teaching you about the benefits of generosity. Give it to her. You're a Dharma practitioner. No way, she won't value it. And besides, you need it too bad. Keep it. So, I had the Union and the Confederates going at each other. And, well, okay, maybe I'll think of giving her, I'll think about it. But when in the world would you give it to her? Well, I can give it to her here on the trolley. No, you can't. The trolley's moving. You can't take your suitcase out and give it to her. Well, I could give it to her at the train station right before we board. No, you can't, because you're going to have to board and the train may take off very quickly and it's dangerous. You can't open your suitcase on the platform. Well, just wait, see how it goes. Okay. So we get to the train station. So Sasha, who doesn't have much money, says, excuse me for a minute. And then she comes back a few minutes later with some sweetbread for us to enjoy in the train trip. So by this time, I'm going, Chodron, give her the sweater. Yeah, give her the sweater. No, we're on the platform. I can't open my suitcase on the platform. So then we board the train, and, okay, Chodron, your suitcase is on the train now. Open it. Give her the sweater. No, because the train's going to start any minute. And if I have my suitcase open and I try and give it to her and she has to run off that train, she's going to fall on the train tracks and get killed. So, for her own safety, I can't give her that sweater. Chodron, it's like, just do it. So finally, I took that sweater out and I gave the sweater to Sasha. And her face lit up like she had received gold or something. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, what was going on in my mind that I couldn't give her the sweater, that I had to fight this civil war inside to convince myself to give her something, and look how happy she is. And then she left the train. We went to Donetsk. A week later, we came back to Donetsk. The weather had changed. It was really warm. Sasha came to meet us at the train station. She was wearing the sweater. Yeah. And so to this day, it's like, oh my God, I wasted so much time fighting this internal civil war for something that I don't miss at all. I mean, I never sit there. Of all my distractions in meditation, it is never about a maroon cashmere sweater. Yeah. So, okay, this is why generosity is one of the things we're encouraged to practice. Also, because it's something that is really valued in the world. Everybody appreciates someone who's generous. When that person gives with a generous mind, when they give because they want fame, they want thank yous and appreciation, they want somebody else to feel obliged to them, that's not the good motivation for giving. But a really good motivation is just, you're freeing yourself. Okay, then the next verse 7, is about discipline, ethical conduct. Okay, keep your precepts unbroken, undegraded, uncorrupted, and quite free of stain. Just as the earth is the base for all that still or moves, on ethical conduct, it said, is founded all that's good. Okay, so I change the words sometimes when I'm reading. Okay, so our ethical conduct should have 4 features. First of all, our basic precepts should be unbroken. Yeah. And then the minor precepts that protect us from breaking the major ones, those should be undegraded. Yeah, undegraded. That's a strange word, isn't it? Okay. Okay. And our ethical conduct should be unadulterated by anything incompatible with ethical conduct. So you're kind of ethical and then you're not, and back and forth. And then our ethical conduct should be free of stain. So here the stain is of a selfish mind or thoughts wishing to better our own position, to get some fame or recognition or something out of the gift. Okay, so the worldly concerns getting involved in our generosity. Yeah, so if I give a lot of money to this charity, then when they build the new clinic, my name will be in the foyer and everybody will know how generous I am, or in Dharma circles, I'll give a big donation, then I get to have lunch and dinner with the teacher, and I get to sit in the front row, and I get special presents. Okay, so many people do their fundraising, centers do their fundraising like that. We do not. Yeah, because we really want people, when they make donations, to give from the heart, not because we have a scale of, if you give this amount, you get, this kind of Buddhist trinket. And if you get this amount, you get an even better, then you get a small Buddha statue. And if you give this amount, then you get a bigger Buddha statue. We don't want to, we want people to give because they feel good. Yeah, and not because they're going to get something. So that's why we call it an economy of generosity, where everybody gives because they want to. Okay, so our ethical conduct should have those qualities, and then, or be free from those adverse qualities. And ethical conduct is important because it is the basis of ethical conduct is the principal cause for having a fortunate rebirth. So the fact that we are born human beings now, what was the cause of this birth? Having practiced ethical conduct in previous lives. Yeah, we're born with enough food, and we're born in a quite wealthy country. What was the cause of that? Generosity in previous lives. Okay, so all the good circumstances that we have, whether it's living in a peaceful country or whatever, comes because of actions we created in previous lives. Yeah, that doesn't mean that we were necessarily from the same country in a previous life. Yeah, and similarly, if we have suffering and various sufferings in our life, we trace it back to karmic causes created in previous lives. Okay, so those are the 6 things to remember: the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, the celestial beings or gods, generosity, and ethical conduct. Okay. Now we get into the essence of the path. And so first comes a brief introduction, and then he's going to go into more depth about the 6 perfections. Okay, so the brief introduction. Generosity and ethical conduct, fortitude and joyous effort, concentration and the wisdom that knows thusness. Thusness means reality. Those measureless perfections, make them grow, and be a mighty conqueror who has crossed samsara's sea. So they talk about samsara, our constantly recurring rebirth under the influence of ignorance and mental afflictions and polluted karma. Okay, so be a mighty conqueror, become a Buddha who has crossed over samsara's sea. How do we do that? By practicing the bodhisattva perfections. And so here it's listing the 6 ones. Generosity, we talked about briefly. Ethical conduct, we've discussed. Fortitude is going to come. Fortitude, sometimes it's translated as patience, but patience often means, like you're waiting for something or somebody. And here, what it has more of the connotation of being able to bear hardship. Yeah, which is a very important quality to cultivate. Here it's translated as diligence. We usually call it joyous effort, a mind that takes delight in virtue. Concentration, developing the ability to keep the mind on a constructive object without letting it wander all over the place or fall asleep. And then wisdom that knows both the conventional reality and the ultimate nature of phenomena. So that's the brief introduction to the perfections, and then he's going to elaborate on them. So we've done 8 verses. Yeah, we'll keep going. Okay, so we have a few minutes for questions or comments.
I'm missing the point, I think, about the gods.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just about doing these things then gets you that rebirth, and that's all there is to that?
What are you getting?
So there's Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, generosity, ethical conduct, and then gods is kind of like all these wonderful things, and then God realm. I don't get it.
Okay. I think it is designed to, remember he's talking to a king? Okay. So a king wants a good rebirth with luxury and good circumstances and things like that. Okay, so for many people, that's how they start out on the path. They want a good rebirth. So it's taught to encourage people in that way. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Why does he encourage giving to Brahmins? Is that a Hindu?
Oh, yeah.
faith?
Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, so there were Brahmins in society, and the Buddha, he was not fond of the caste system, and in fact, he outlawed it in his own Sangha community. But Brahmins were widely respected in India. And it's interesting when you read the Pali scriptures, the Buddha had a lot of discussions with Brahmins because, they were the top caste. And if those people turned their minds towards the Buddha Dharma, it was a very good example for the rest of society who would become more open for those teachings. Yeah. The same way now, like, Richard Gere is a disciple of His Holiness. So all of a sudden, and Goldie Hawn, and I don't know who else, but now, let's check out Buddhism if Richard Gere thinks that it's good. But, but he's a sincere practitioner. But, so I think it's kind of along those lines. Yeah. So we'll close for today and continue tomorrow morning. And you have meditation this evening. So in your meditation this evening, think about the teachings that you've heard. Mm-hmm.